Hey guys, it's Coach Gaglione here. This is another edition of the Powerlifting for the People podcast. We're kind of continuing along kind of our theme of just kind of overall health, longevity, and recovery. So I'm hoping a lot of these episodes help you guys out. I know it's not as kind of sexy as talking about, getting a 900-pound squat or, getting a big deadlift, but all these things for recovery are going to be really important for just having longevity. And the longer you are in the sport, the healthier you're going to be. You're going to be in the game longer and eventually have a better performance. So today we have a special guest. It's my sister is on today. Stephanie, how you doing?
Good.
I'm going to let her kind of explain a little bit more, but basically one of the things that we're going to talk about today is the use of nature and being outside. And I'm sure there's a lot of basic kind of benefits, like just being out in sunlight and unplugging from technology, and there's a lot of really small things on the surface, but she's going to kind of dive in a little bit deeper. So kind of like myself, she was on kind of one career path, and now she's on another, and this is definitely a passion for her, so I'm proud of her for that, for kind of pursuing that. So I wanted to kind of get her on because this is something where I had kind of know a little bit about, but this is something that she's studying, and maybe just talk about. So the topic of today is nature therapy, and maybe how that's going to, and we're going to talk about specifically how it's going to benefit anyone, but also just having the lifter in mind, which typically, your typical kind of meatheads, really high stress, kind of banging weights all the time, so you're always kind of in that kind of sympathetic mode. So we're going to talk about kind of the benefits and how some of the nature therapy and just being outside can kind of counteract some of the stuff, because obviously there's a lot of stuff that's really beneficial, but like anything else, there's risk and reward and there's cost and benefit. So we're going to talk about how we can use the nature therapy to kind of alleviate some of those more harmful effects that kind of heavy weight training can have. So if you want to maybe just give a little intro on what nature therapy is, and then maybe a little bit about your study, and then we can kind of just go from there.
So nature therapy is guided, slow, mindful walks using nature as a healing force. It is based off of a Japanese tradition known as Shinrin-yoku, which translates to forest bathing. And what that means is, as we walk throughout the forest, we are bathing in the natural emittance of the forest's atmosphere. Besides from the oxygen-rich nature of the air that we're walking in, there is also an abundance of chemicals that have anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial properties. Most notably, the main component that we benefit from inhaling is called phytoncides, and these phytoncides are the plant's natural immune response to any form of host invasion. And when we breathe in these phytoncides, our body responds with an increase in natural killer cells, which is a type of white blood cell responsible for our immune function. These natural killer cells, they kill the cancerous cells that we have, tumor cells, as well as any virus-infected cells. So they clean up any of the damaging cells in our body. So in Japan, this is a widely used form of preventative medicine. And like you said, there are a lot of benefits of being out in nature that we know of, but it's not enough to receive the multitude of benefits that we can receive by just being there and thinking about all of our to-do lists and rushing to hike to see the big mountain and missing everything along the way. It is really a mindfulness practice, but apart from a typical mindfulness practice, instead of just connecting to yourself, you're connecting to all of nature, which includes the self. Which is something that with my training I was never really aware of, the importance of relationships, and we are social beings. There's a reason for that. We have this instinctual need to connect with other life forms, and it's essential for health. I am a licensed pharmacist, so you had mentioned that my career path is kind of in transition, and from my experience in the medical field, there's a lot of talk about the mind-body connection right now, a lot of new research coming out. I'm really interested in psychoneuroimmunology, which is the interjection of the psychological processes, the nervous system, the endocrine system, and the immune function, and how they're all related. And it's a missing piece, I think, in our Western model. And that's not to say that what we have developed isn't good and helpful. It's amazing. But we have so many people suffering from chronic conditions, and they're not getting relief. And implementing lifestyle changes and really getting down to what is causing the disease and misimbalances in our lifestyle and our body is necessary. And so having a mindfulness practice in general is really beneficial, but there are some components from being out in nature that are added benefits. And the relational aspect is something that I think a lot of us overlook. And so aside from being out in nature and just enjoying the peace and calm that we all instinctually feel, a nature therapy walk it follows a standard sequence that is different from each walk, but the main principle is to engage your senses. A lot of us are detached from our senses. We're in our mind all the time, and as a young child, we connect to the world and we learn with our senses until we develop our cognitive ability to speak and the prefrontal cortex. So it's kind of getting back to that because it's all necessary. It's all there for a reason. And by using our senses and engaging with them, we are strengthening our ability to have awareness. And also it takes us out of our mind. It brings us to the present moment.
I know, like, for myself and a lot of our members and just people that I coach both remotely and online and in person, I should say, lifters, especially nowadays, besides all the heavy weights, besides that they're kind of like, just really, the workouts are very intense. A lot of times, they may have stressful jobs. And a big part of powerlifting now too, it's like everyone is like kind of like on like social media, they're on their phone all the time. Can you talk about like maybe some of the benefits of maybe kind of what are some of the benefits of slowing down, being mindful? And then I know, like, for me, like, I always had a hard time just sitting still and like meditating and like slowing down. What are some like the benefits that you see that people can kind of get from like a recovery standpoint? For someone that's like kind of constantly on the go, or they're constantly doing really high like stress activities, what are some of the benefits that we can kind of expect by kind of engaging this, kind of activity on a regular basis?
What you just said about I don't know if you said sympathetic, but most of us are constantly in the sympathetic mode, fight or flight, get things done. We have a very productivity-driven society, and it's all over. And most of us feel uncomfortable when we're not doing something productive, and it's a byproduct of our society. Just backing up, most of us spend 93% of our time indoors and 11 hours on technology. And there's some new...
It's like almost half the day.
Yeah, there's some new apps on the iPhone that show you how much time you're on your phone, and we don't realize it, but we use it for everything, even for our work, to look things up. But social media, there's a lot of reasons why I think we get hooked on that, but it's essential to detach from technology in general. And so when you're in the sympathetic mode, that's what you're looking for in strength training. You want to be in that mode. You want to get your reps in. You want to put in a high energy, and what that does physiologically is it takes all the energy away from the external organs, and it brings things to create high impact, and it shuts down the rest and digest mode. There's the sympathetic and the parasympathetic modes of our autonomic nervous system, and when one's on, the other's off, and vice versa. But so many of us are locked in the sympathetic state, and there have been studies that show how difficult it is for people to enter the parasympathetic mode if they've been chronically stressed and chronically on. And even if you participate in meditation practices, you may not be able to enter that mode. So it's a practice for a reason. It's a continued effort to try and slow down, and it's necessary for your body to heal. Most of the benefits, I don't think I mentioned, there's the phytoncides cause the natural killer cell to be increased in our body, but there are also there's a lot of other benefits that the Japanese culture has collected a large body of literature to support with a bunch of studies, but it lowers your heart rate, lowers the stress hormone cortisol secretion.
So having, like, for people, and again, like a lot of, maybe some of our listeners are familiar, but like having chronically high levels of cortisol, why is that like a problem, and why is that like something important to consider?
Well, the cortisol depresses our immune response, so we can't heal if we have high stress, and I'm sure all of us have experienced where we're run down and we get sick physically. We know that happens, and that's the reason, is that the cortisol shuts down that ability. It causes us to gain weight in our central area. Metabolic syndrome is a really big problem for a lot of Americans, and stress is a big contributor to that. But as far as recovery for strength training and any type of recovery, you need to enter the parasympathetic mode to be able to heal, and you could be eating the right nutrition, you could be trying to get your 8 hours of sleep, and sleep is a really important thing. And even if we get the 8 hours, are we getting the right quality? Are we really entering?
Is it restful?
Yeah, are we entering the REM state? Are we allowing our body to regenerate? And that's where most of our muscles, the buildup occurs, is in our sleep, in the deep sleep. And so if you're someone who is constantly working out and just obsessive about building, even if it wasn't in working out, just in life, if you're obsessive about building, you're never going to get anywhere. You're going to get run down, you're going to get burnt out, and your body won't be able to adapt, and you're going to have fatigue. Whether you want to ignore it and keep going, it's going to have effects on your body. And this is one way of finding a way to engage your parasympathetic nervous system, and that activation just causes a cascade of other benefits which are necessary for healing, for recovery, for rebuilding.
Great. And this is obviously like, this could obviously be like anything else. There's levels to it. There's, I know that you said, I guess like typically like this can take a couple hours, right? And things like that. If someone maybe wanted to maybe they have no experience at all, maybe they don't have someone like yourself in their area, but like where would you kind of start if you want to just try to, use some nature and just get outside just to kind of, start to relax a little bit and unplug? Like, what would be a good place to start? And then if you maybe like, where would be a good place to start if you don't have a guide? And then if you do have somebody, what would you kind of like look for and like trying to find a person or something like that?
Yeah, just as a heads up, there is a lot of guides. If you go to the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy website, they have a map, and it shows the guides in the area, and it's been growing. It's really an amazing organization I'm involved in. But just number one, leaving your electronics at home. Breathing practices is nothing to do with forest therapy or nature therapy, but it's a really beneficial tool if you're someone who really has a hard time getting clear and calm. But walking around in nature at a slow pace. You don't want to be rushing. You don't want to be detached.
It's not like another workout, so that's
right.
Yeah.
And I know I love to get a good workout outside. It's beautiful, and you have energy and you want to go. But that's not what this is. And so slowing down, making sure that you're in your body and present and not in your head, which is really difficult. And the best thing you can do is just continue to redirect yourself to get out of your head and to slow down and engaging with your senses. So in the beginning of every nature therapy walk, I'll say it's part of our standard sequence, but every guide is going to interpret it differently. We give an invitation out, which an invitation is just a simple suggestion to engage with and to focus on, but we start off with pleasures of presence to connect to each of the senses, and allowing your mind to focus on one thing is a great tool to just slow down and connect to your body and to get into your body. So when you're outside, you have all these amazing stimulus. You have the birds chirping, the sunshine, the wind, and then moving beyond that, just touching the bark on the tree and feeling the textures and just connecting with it, touching it and feeling it and observing and engaging with it and being curious and in a play mindset. There's a lot of benefits from that, and research on awe and the benefits that that gives us in a health standpoint as well. And nature is the biggest contributor to our experience of awe. We just get overwhelmed with the sensations of beauty and intelligence that surrounds us.
Yeah, so just from my experience, like I said, I did a walk with my sister recently. Being someone that owns their own business, just in general has like a higher stress kind of lifestyle because I have a lot of projects, a lot of high, lofty goals, both, whether that be my strength training or my business or, personal relationships and things like that. Learning to actually shut off can really help allow you to kind of recharge and actually be a little bit more creative when you kind of come back to your work and things like that. And like I said, just, being somebody that's always like, if you're always chasing really high numbers and things like that, you're a high level athlete, having those periods of recovery is crucial. With myself too, I know it's hard. A lot of people always talk about meditation. For me, like I was never really able to kind of just sit still, like in my room and stuff. That was really hard. But something like and we'll include some links in the description as well. We have an episode talking about yoga. So yoga is something that really helped me kind of hone into my breath and kind of focus internally. I thought I had a very similar experience with the nature therapy walk as well. A little bit different of the stimulus, especially like I said, just being among the plants, being among nature, having the sun, the benefits of like the vitamin D and the sunlight and all the stuff that you're kind of breathing in from like the plants and wildlife. So definitely there's some differences there, and I think they both can benefit. Not to say like one's better than the other. I think that both can work well as far as periods of planned recovery. I think it's important just to understand what the intent is, because like anything else, you can kind of take it too far if you're moving too fast, or if you're not focused, or if if your technology is not away or turned off. I think all else can be pitfalls. So, but yeah, I think it's just another thing that's going to be important. The use of the breath, the use of getting into the parasympathetic state, so you can actually relax. It's going to allow you to get more out of your workouts and your training, because the stronger you get, the more you get to focus on recovery, and that's going to allow you to kind of go far. Especially like someone like myself, who's been following our channel recently, focus on a lot of weight loss and things like that, so I'm in a caloric deficit. I'm trying to also get stronger at the same time, so there's a lot of added stress to the body, so I have to be even more mindful of recovery, because I'm trying to balance a lot of different spin a bunch of different plates all at once. So if you have a high stress life. So one thing I do want to talk about, and I think because this episode will kind of air before, we're going to do look at nature therapy walk. So anyone that's like a team member, or that if you're just a lifter that wants to try it out, or an athlete that wants to try it out and you're local to the Long Island area, we'll include some information about that in the description below. We have a Facebook event page for it if you're interested. Can you maybe just tell people like watching or listening what can they expect, and then how would they kind of just maybe prepare for that?
Yeah.
And then that's going to be April 20th. It's in Muttontown. Yep. 11:30. So we'll include the description, but just so you guys know, it's going to be in Long Island, April 20th. It's also my birthday, but that's just happened to be Saturday that I was free. So can you just maybe tell us a little about like what they can expect and like what we're going to kind of go through for that particular walk?
Yeah. So there is a Facebook page. Biophilia is the name it's under for now. I'm in the process of solidifying what name it's going to be in the future, but if you either find the page from his page, Gaglione Strength.
So there'll be links below that you guys can check out. So we'll link all that, so it'll be really easy to find.
So you can register there, and it's going to be from 11:30 to 1:30. It's typically a 2 to 3 hour walk. You don't want to rush it. You want to be able to settle in and sink in, so that you really can receive those benefits that we're talking about. And so my job as the guide is to keep track of time so that you can put that away. We are going to do a very short walk. It's going to be a short loop around Mountain Town Preserve. If you've never been there before, it's really beautiful. It's a large area. There's a lot of space, and so we're going to meet there. There's a little nature center with the bathroom, so if anyone needs to use the bathroom in the beginning. And then we're just going to go along the trail, and I'm going to offer a series of invitations for participants to engage in the senses and to connect with a specific focus on one sense at a time, to try and just get everyone to slow down and to have fun with it. It's not so serious. It's not something that you can do wrong. It's not something that you should be afraid of or feel that you need to prepare for in any way. Getting a good night's sleep is helpful for you, and that's what this is all about, is for your health and healing. But just come with an open mind and to have a good time. And there's no intention really other than for you to allow yourself a time to connect, to relax, and to gain whatever health benefits that you can gain in that moment. There's a ton of physiological benefits, but on a deeper level, there's so much more that you may experience from this type of walk. And at the end of the walk, we'll gather for tea, and it'll be nice to just settle back in, and there'll be some healthy snacks for us to share in a community.
All right, great. Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming on today, and I appreciate you kind of sharing this with everybody that's following our stuff. So you guys can check out the links below. If you want to learn more about nature therapy and you are local to Long Island, or even if you're not, the Facebook page is Biophilia. We'll include that in the show notes and the description below. So you definitely, if you want to learn more, you can give her a follow. And then what was the website again that if they just want to maybe find it for people that are not local that want to find a guide?
It's natureandforesttherapy.org, but if you just Google ANFT, Association of Nature and Forest Therapy, it'll bring you right there, and there's a lot of data, research, as well as opportunities to experience a nature therapy walk.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, especially if you're somebody who's really struggling and if you feel like you're putting a lot of effort into the gym and you feel like you're putting a lot of effort into your eating and your sleeping, a lot of people, the kind of that missing link is the stress management piece. I think that gets overlooked a lot. So if you're one of those people that feels like they're just like firing on all cylinders and you feel like you're kind of spinning your wheels and you're not like making any progress, look at your stress. It's probably the hardest thing to kind of, and I think, you know, for me as a coach, this is kind of, you know, the evolution. Sometimes you kind of see as like, why is so-and-so, you know, X athlete doing so well, and then, you know, Y athlete, and a lot of times it has to do with their mindset and what's going on internally, and it's nothing to do with the external like input. A lot of times people are working hard enough, and if anything, sometimes especially for the elite athletes, a lot of times my job is actually to pull them back, especially for the more high level performance. A lot of time I'm actually having them do a little bit less, having them take some weight off the bar. Not to say sometimes with beginners they need a little bit more of a kick in the butt, but I think we could all, like, if we could all enhance our recovery, we're going to get that much more out of our training. So thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys liked the episode, please subscribe and please give us a 5-star review. It helps other people find us. Definitely check out the links below. And until next time, stay strong, and we'll see you soon.